Okay, so we're now going to move on to some exam questions. We've only got a couple of exam questions that we're going to be looking at. We've got the first question over here. In photosynthesis, which chemicals are needed for the light-dependent reaction? So for the light-dependent reaction, which chemicals are needed? So we've got reduced NADP, ADP, PI, water, and oxygen. So we know that for the light-dependent reaction, oxygen isn't really needed. We need water, we need ATP, and we need PI because those are the two things which are going to pass through ATP synthase. We don't need reduced NADP. That's what's going to be formed in the light-dependent reaction. So it's not going to be the first one. NADP, ATP, and water. ATP is going to be formed in the reaction. So we don't need ATP. Reduced NADP, ATP, water, and carbon dioxide. Again, we don't need reduced NADP. Reduced NADP is what's going to be formed in this process. NADP, ADP, PI, and water, that's what we're going to need. Okay, that's the one we're going to tick for this question. Okay, so NADP, we are needed because NADP combines with hydrogen ions to form reduced NADP, which is required for the next stage of photosynthesis. ADP and PI is required because that's what's going to form ATP after the hydrogen ions have passed through ATP synthase, and water is required because we need to split water apart, the photolysis of water, to form your hydrogen ions, electrons, and your oxygen. Okay, so as you can see over here, that's your correct answer for 1 mark. Now, our next question is over here. It says, describe what happens during photoionization in the light-dependent reaction. Okay, so this is the photoionization stage. So the second stage of the light-dependent reaction. So what happens? So we know that the chlorophyll is ionized. The chlorophyll absorbs the light, and that's what's going to excite the electrons, and that causes the electrons to move out of the chlorophyll and go to the membrane, where they're going to pass along the proteins which are embedded within the membrane. Okay, and we have our knowledge there, we just need to put it into words, and that's what we're going to do over here. So as you can see, this is a model mock scheme answer to include what happens during your photoionization stage of the light dependent reaction. Well, first of all, the chlorophyll absorbs light. Okay, the chlorophyll absorbs light. That's the first mark for this question. And the second mark is coming from by saying that electrons are lost. Okay, so remember, the electrons, they get excited and they move out of the chlorophyll and they move to the membrane, where they move along the proteins, the carrier proteins, which are embedded within the membrane of the chloroplast. Okay, so those are the 2 marks that you need to mention when it comes to answering a question like this. Again, this is a common exam question. That's the model mock scheme answer that you need to state to get the marks. Okay, this question, it says the light absorbed by chlorophyll is used in the light-dependent reaction. Name the 2 products of the light-dependent reaction that are required for the light-independent reaction. So what's being produced in this reaction that is also going to be needed in the light-independent reaction? And the 2 key aspects which are being produced is your reduced NADP. Remember, the hydrogen ions that are lost from the photolysis of water, they're going to be used and they're going to be picked up by the coenzyme NADP, and they're going to become reduced NADP. Okay, so it's going to form reduced NADP. And then what else is being produced? Well, ADP and PI combining to form something, they're forming ATP after the hydrogen ions pass through ATP synthase. Okay, so those are the 2 aspects that you need. As you can see over here, it says reject reduced NAD. NAD is used in respiration. It's not used in photosynthesis.